50 miles. That's all that separates the United States from Russia. At its narrowest point, the Bering Strait is shorter than a morning commute in most major cities. So here's the question: why is there no bridge connecting them? It's not because we haven't tried. In theory, it's possible. But Alaska and Russia aren't just separated by geography. They're divided by something stranger. Because when you start looking into what lies between them, into the wilderness, the cryptids, the ghost towns, and ancient myths, you start to wonder if the Bering Strait isn't just difficult to cross, maybe it's not meant to be. Today on Sketchy Tunes, we will be looking into the real reason there is no bridge between Alaska and Russia. So what makes the Bering Strait so hard to build across anyway? On paper, a bridge or tunnel across the Bering Strait seems like a no-brainer. The distance is only about 82.5 kilometers, roughly the same as the English Channel, which has been spanned by the channel since 1994. But look closer. The Bering Strait is a frozen gauntlet. For much of the year, the strait is covered in thick ice floes that can be up to 1.8 meters, about 6 feet thick. These massive ice sheets move and shift with the currents, putting tremendous pressure on any structure built in the water. Combine that with brutally cold temperatures, fierce winds, and frequent storms, and building a bridge becomes a seriously daunting engineering problem. On top of that, the land on both sides of the strait is locked in permafrost, permanently frozen ground that makes construction difficult. Building support structures like bridge pylons or tunnel entrances in permafrost requires special techniques to avoid ground shifts or damage as the permafrost melts and refreezes with changing temperatures. Even if engineers could successfully place foundations in these conditions, they would still face the challenge of building infrastructure. The tundra surrounding the strait stretches for hundreds of miles, with no existing highways or railways in the immediate area. On the Russian side, the closest major railway hub is over 2,000 miles away, meaning a bridge or tunnel would have to be connected to long, new roads or rail lines built across some of the world's most remote and rugged terrain. And then there's the infrastructure mismatch. Russia uses a different rail gauge than the US and Canada, meaning you can't just lay railway tracks and go. You'd need massive transfer stations, gauge changers, or a complete standardization, none of which come cheap. Yep, the sheer cost of such a project is staggering. Estimates for building a combined rail, road, and pipeline crossing of the Bering Strait alone reach up to $105 billion. Yes, you heard us right. $105 billion. However, that figure only covers the actual strait crossing. When you include the construction of roads, railways, and support facilities on both sides, which would span thousands of miles through harsh, remote regions, the total investment could easily reach into the trillions of dollars. So yes, the project is technically possible, but not only is it a logistical nightmare, it's basically a financial black hole too. And even if you solved all of that, there are even more strange and sinister reasons the bridge hasn't been built. And then there's the politics. It's no secret that relations between the United States and Russia are tense at best, and have been for decades. During the Cold War, the Bering Strait was not just a geographical boundary, but a symbolic one, marking the ideological divide between capitalism and communism. Even in today's post-Cold War world, that friction hasn't disappeared. Yep, international infrastructure projects demand trust and long-term stability between nations. But with sanctions, military standoffs, and mutual suspicion shaping US-Russia relations, it's hard to imagine either side agreeing to the massive job of building a bridge. There are also serious security concerns. A physical connection between Alaska and Siberia would raise questions about border control, surveillance, and military vulnerability. In times of conflict or crisis, that bridge could quickly become a route right into the United States. The Bering Strait may be only 50 miles wide, but politically, it's a whole lot wider than that. And that's not the only problem. Turns out at one point, many millennia ago, there was a bridge here after all. That's right. Thousands of years ago, there was a crossing here. not made of steel or concrete, but of earth. During the last ice age, sea levels were over 100 meters lower than they are today. The Bering Strait wasn't a strait at all. It was dry land. A vast, windswept plain called Beringia connected what we now know as Russia and Alaska. This wasn't just a narrow strip of dirt, it was a massive expanse up to 1,000 miles wide at its broadest point, stretching from Siberia to the Yukon. It was cold, yes, but not entirely frozen. Beringia escaped full glaciation, making it one of the few habitable corridors in the region during the Ice Age. This allowed not only the movement of animals, but also one of the most significant human migrations in history. Humans really did cross into the Americas here, likely in multiple waves, bringing with them languages, tools, and culture. The earliest known crossings date back at least 15,000 years, possibly more, according to recent discoveries. This land bridge was a lifeline between continents, shaping the ancestry of entire civilizations. And it wasn't just people using this ancient bridge. Giant woolly mammoths roamed these plains, as did saber-toothed cats, ancient horses, steppe bison, and enormous short-faced bears, creatures that dwarf most animals alive today. Beringia was a rich, biodiverse world, teeming with prehistoric life. But when the Ice Age began to melt, the oceans rose. Slowly, the land sank beneath the waves. What was once a bridge became a strait, and then what was once a path became a myth. Today, little evidence of Beringia remains above the surface. The Diomede Islands are the last visible remnants of that connection. Two lonely landforms, one Russian, one American, split by the international dateline. That means Big Diomede in Russia is almost a full day ahead of Little Diomede in the USA, even though there's less than 3 miles between them. So when you're standing on Little Diomede, you can literally see tomorrow across the water. But with the Beringia land bridge gone forever, any chance of crossing from the USA into Russia by foot has vanished off the face of the planet. Yep, a fleeting window in Earth's timeline actually allowed humans and giants to cross continents. But it's looking less and less likely that will ever happen again. Now let's get into the real nitty-gritty of it all. What's really lurking in this forgotten place? In the remote icy wilderness stretching across Alaska and eastern Russia, locals whisper tales of a legendary beast known as the Northern Giant, or more dramatically, Bearzilla. Descriptions of this creature paint a picture far beyond the realm of ordinary bears. A colossal, shadowy figure roaming the forests and tundra. Yikes! The story of Bearzilla is more than just folklore. Many believe it could be a surviving relative of the short-faced bear, Arctodus simus, a prehistoric giant that once ruled the vast landscape of Beringia during the Ice Age. This extinct predator was a titan of its time, standing over 12 feet tall on its hind legs and weighing up to 2,500 pounds, easily dwarfing the largest brown or grizzly bears alive today. Now that's one big bear. With long legs built for speed and a jaw powerful enough to crush bone, the short-faced bear was a terrifying apex predator. The idea that a creature of this scale and power could somehow still exist, well, it doesn't even bear thinking about. And even weirder still, despite the harsh and isolated nature of the region, reports of Bearzilla are surprisingly consistent. Hunters, trappers, and indigenous communities recount finding enormous tracks with unusually deep impressions, much larger than those left by known bears. Some witnesses claim to have glimpsed the creature moving swiftly just beyond the tree line, a massive silhouette disappearing into the wilderness with a speed and size that defies explanation. All those people can't be wrong, can they? Yet, the legend is met with a heavy dose of skepticism. Scientists and wildlife experts argue these sightings are most likely cases of mistaken identity or even hoaxes. Large grizzlies or Kodiak bears can appear colossal from a distance, especially in poor lighting or unfamiliar terrain. Stories passed down through generations may grow in detail and become exaggerated myths that are further from the truth than they would like to admit. Still, the legend of Bearzilla endures, and for good reason. The regions where these sightings occur are among the most remote and least explored on Earth. Vast forests, rugged mountains, and endless tundra create a perfect backdrop for a mysterious creature that could theoretically remain hidden from human eyes. And it's not the only killer cryptid rumored to be roaming the Arctic either. Meet the Iliamna lake monster, known locally as Ili. This massive aquatic cryptid is said to live in Alaska's largest freshwater lake, Lake Iliamna, which has an outlet to the Bering Sea. Descriptions vary slightly, but most agree it's a fish-like creature 25 to 60 feet long, with an elongated body and a powerful tail. Its skin is often described as dull, metallic, and aluminum-colored, reflecting sunlight like a moving submarine hull. Some stories actually describe multiple creatures, hinting at a breeding population hidden in the lake's depths. Yes, Ili may even have children. Now, there's a scary thought. Lake Iliamna isn't just Alaska's largest lake. It's one of its most mysterious. Spanning over 1,000 square miles, it's vast, deep, and largely uninhabited. It connects to the Bering Sea through the Kivachak River, giving ocean creatures a route into its cold, freshwater depths. And according to decades of eyewitness accounts, something enormous lives there. The Iliamna lake monster has been described as shark-like, whale-like, or even resembling a sturgeon on steroids. Some accounts say Ili can flip boats or swim faster than any known freshwater species. The earliest written reports date all the way back to the 1940s, when pilots claimed to spot massive shapes moving beneath the ice or water. Fishermen spoke of losing gear, snagged or yanked into the depths. Locals began drawing comparisons to creatures like the Loch Ness Monster, and curiosity grew nationwide. In the 1970s, the Anchorage Daily News offered a $100,000 reward to anyone who could provide definitive proof of Ili's existence, be it clear photos, physical evidence, or a captured specimen. Despite numerous attempts, no one has ever claimed the prize. But that hasn't stopped people from trying. Expeditions have come and gone. Underwater cameras have been installed, and acoustic equipment has recorded some seriously strange noises. Still, the lake guards its secret. And believe it or not, there is yet another beast that may be preventing our bridge from being built. The Teezeruk is a creature straight out of Inuit mythology, said to haunt the frigid waters of the Bering Sea. It's described as a serpentine beast with a head up to 7 feet long, and a body that can stretch 15 feet or more. What makes the Teezeruk unique is its supposed ability to compress its body, allowing it to slip through narrow spaces, shallow waters, and even up to river channels. It moves silently, strikes suddenly, and then vanishes completely. In Inuit folklore, the Teezeruk is often seen as a dangerous predator that moves silently and attacks without warning. Some stories describe the creature grabbing people from docks or shores and dragging them underwater without a splash. If the thought of that doesn't make you shiver, we don't know what will. Beyond the myths, some people believe the Teezeruk could be based on a real animal. There are theories that it might be a giant eel or a large fish unknown to science. Others think it might be a surviving ancient marine reptile, something like a plesiosaur that escaped extinction and lives hidden in the Arctic's icy depths. The Teezeruk holds a special place in Inuit culture, symbolizing the dangers of the ocean and the mysteries beneath the ice. It reminds people that the Arctic waters are wild and unpredictable, with many secrets still unknown. And while no scientific evidence confirms the Teezeruk's existence, the story continues to be passed down through generations, keeping the legend alive. Among the stranger cryptids in the region is the Palrayuk, a beast described in Yup'ik oral tradition. This creature is a horror show of epic proportions. Part muskox, part gator, part shrew. Some say it moves like a snake, but leaves heavy hoof prints. Others describe it as semi-aquatic, living in marshlands and lake edges, where it hunts quietly in the fog. The Palrayuk has been connected to prehistoric creatures, possibly surviving relics from the Ice Age. or misidentifications of known species. Yet, it stands out because of its eerie blend of mammal and reptile features. This is Frankenstein's monster of Arctic species. Other local legends speak of multi-legged polar bears, spirit wolves, and small, rock-throwing humanoids that live in caves and steal hunters' kills. So it turns out there really are all kinds of creepy creatures rumored to be living in this mysterious region. And stories like this aren't easily dismissed, not when they've lasted for generations. And let's face it, it's not just the creatures. The land itself seems to hate the idea of any human settlement. This region is one of the most seismically active on Earth. Tectonic plates grind beneath the surface, causing frequent earthquakes. Some of these quakes have triggered devastating tsunamis, reshaping coastlines and wiping out settlements in minutes. On both sides of the Bering Strait, you'll find ghost towns. The lands surrounding the Bering Strait are absolutely littered with ghost town, once ambitious settlements that dared to challenge the extremes. Farther inland, other abandoned towns lie empty due to exhausted resources or collapsing logistics. Many of these places were built during the Soviet industrial pushes into the Arctic and were abandoned when the economy shifted or the state withdrew support. Alaska has its share too. The ghost town of Portlock is a place where residents fled en masse in the 1950s, reportedly due to repeated unexplained deaths and terrifying events blamed on a creature called the Nantinak. Other towns like Ukivok and Teller Mission were abandoned due to extreme isolation, lack of economic opportunity, or simply because the cold proved too relentless. Yes, even the infrastructure that does exist here can't be counted on. Roads buckle, pipelines freeze, communication networks fail. In a place this remote, when something breaks, it often stays broken. This is not a land that exactly welcomes development. To cross this region with a bridge or railway might just disturb the ghosts of everyone who tried and failed to tame it. Now there's a spooky thought. And to some indigenous cultures in Siberia and Alaska, the Bering Strait isn't just a stretch of icy water. It's a spiritual line between worlds. In traditional belief systems, nature is full of spirits. There's a spirit for fire, a spirit for water, animal spirits, ancestral spirits, you name it. And Arctic shamans are the ones who keep that relationship running smoothly. Think of them as spiritual guides, healers, and sometimes the only line of communication between us and whatever's on the other side. One of the most important symbols in many indigenous Siberian cultures is the snow leopard. It's not just a powerful animal, it's a totem. You might even say that it's a divine messenger. Shamans believe that the snow leopard actually moves between the worlds of humans and the world of spirits, carrying prayers and wisdom back and forth. There's even an old belief that when the last snow leopard disappears, so will the traditions and identity of the indigenous peoples. And with fewer than 50 snow leopards left in Russia, that warning feels like less mythology and more like a countdown. So when shamans say building a bridge across the Bering Strait could mess with the balance of the world, they're not talking politics. They're talking about real spiritual consequences in their communities. And maybe they've got a point. Yep, maybe some places aren't meant to be connected. Some gaps exist for a reason. The land itself is treated with deep respect. Mountains, rivers, and frozen tundra are not just terrain, they are alive and even opinionated. When something goes wrong, an accident, a storm, a missing hunter, it's often seen as the land communicating displeasure or imbalance. And maybe that's why, despite all our blueprints and political posturing, nothing has ever been built here. Not because we can't, but because we're not supposed to. In the end, the Bering Strait is more than a gap between nations. People here really believe that it's a space between worlds. And not everything is meant to be crossed. With this belief in mind, to actually build a bridge across the strait wouldn't just be an engineering project, it would mean connecting two realms that were never meant to be joined by human hands. So why isn't there a bridge between Alaska and Russia? Sure, we can point to the usual suspects: extreme climate, engineering hurdles, astronomical costs, and icy geopolitics. It seems impossible, even if you did have the trillions of dollars needed to achieve such a giant feat. But maybe there's more to it than just that. Maybe this stretch of land and sea holds on to its secrets for a reason. Maybe the creatures people claim to see, the giants, the monsters, the spirits, are nature's way of guarding something we don't understand. After all, there was once a point in time where we crossed this place on foot, but now we can't even build a road. Maybe there are some gaps that just aren't meant to be bridged.